it's me again. Hopefully you've now had the chance to go try your hand at graphing the cosine function, and you'll see that there's just a couple of differences there with the cosine function, but for the most part the shape looks the same. Now I'd like to talk about some of these properties of the graph that are pretty important as you're graphing these things, and then you're going to do the same thing for the cosine function. So the domain of this graph, what x values are allowed? Well, your x values are all going to be angle measurements, but angle measurements can go on forever in every direction, right? There's no limitation to those. So our domain here is going to be all real numbers, okay? Your range is your y values, and we sort of already talked about that. Like, what kind of answers are possible here? Well, if you look at our graph, the lowest it's ever going to go is -1, and the highest it's ever going to go is +1. So we would say this is between -1 and +1 for a range. Okay, for x-intercepts here, you'll notice that this crosses at 0 and pi and 2 pi and 3 pi and 4 pi and so on. So the x-intercepts here are located at multiples of pi. These two things, by the way, are going to be exactly the same on the cosine function. This one's going to be a little bit different, so I want you to think about how that one's going to look. For the y-intercept, this one crosses, here's my y-axis right here, in case you lost track of it. This one crosses the y-axis at 0. And again, that's going to be something that's different with the cosine function. Okay, so the sine function has these two things true. Cosines are going to be a little bit different. And then the period. This is a concept that you probably have not talked about before because this is the first periodic function that you've really seen. The period is how long or how far along the x-axis does it take for this thing to repeat. Okay, and so if I look at, say, for example, this point right here, this is where I started. This graph goes up and down and back up again, and so this is the point where we start to repeat. If I were to cut this out right here and just take that exact picture and copy it over and over again, that would form this graph. So this distance along the x-axis is my period, and you'll notice that's a period of 2 pi, okay? Or if I was in degrees, we would say 360 degrees. And that should make sense to you because that's equivalent to 1 turn around the circle, right? That's how long it takes for everything to start repeating. We go around the circle 1 time, and then the graph repeats. Okay, so your period is always going to be 2 pi for sine and cosine. Okay? Okay, so now it's going to be up to you to go back to your cosine function, answer these same questions for the cosine function, and then you can get on your way with your homework assignment. That's really it for today.